Ever heard the term Machiavellian? It usually describes someone cunning, ruthless, and willing to do anything to get ahead. But what if I told you the man behind the term, Niccolo Machiavelli, was way more interesting than that creepy label? What if his ideas, born out of the chaos of Renaissance Italy, hold some of the most profound and surprisingly relevant lessons on power, strategy, and even human nature that we can still use today? Let's dive deep into the world of the ultimate master of strategy. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're journeying back to 15th century Florence, a bustling hub of art, commerce, and cutthroat politics. This was the world that shaped Niccolo Machiavelli. Born in 1469, he wasn't a prince or a warlord. He was a civil servant, a diplomat. For 14 years, he served the Florentine Republic, traveling on missions, negotiating with kings and popes, and getting a front row seat to the brutal theater of power. He saw firsthand how alliances were made and broken in an instant, how fortunes were won and lost on the battlefield, and how leaders who hesitated were quickly swept away. Then, in 1512, everything changed. The powerful Medici family returned to Florence, overthrew the Republic, and Machiavelli lost his job. He was accused of conspiracy, arrested, and even tortured. After his release, he was exiled to his small farm outside the city. Imagine that. One day you're at the center of power, advising leaders, and the next, you're a political outcast with nothing but time on your hands. It was in this forced retirement, this moment of personal crisis, that Machiavelli wrote his most famous and controversial work, The Prince. So what is The Prince really about? Many see it as a handbook for tyrants, a guide on how to be a successful dictator, and on the surface, it's easy to see why. Machiavelli advises a new ruler, a prince, that it's better to be feared than loved, if you can't be both. He argues that a leader must be willing to act immorally, to lie, to break promises, to use force if it's necessary to maintain the state and secure power. He famously wrote that the ends to justify the means. But here's the crucial context everyone misses. Machiavelli wasn't writing this in a peaceful, stable society. He was writing for a fractured and war-torn Italy, constantly invaded by foreign powers. His goal wasn't to promote evil for its own sake. It was to figure out how a leader could create a strong, stable state that could protect its people from chaos and foreign domination. He saw the world not as it should be, but as it actually was. This is the core of his philosophy. Political realism. He stripped away the flowery language of morality and religion that usually surrounded politics, and looked at power with the cold, hard eyes of a scientist. Let's break down some of his key strategies. First, Machiavelli introduces the concept of viroque and fortuna. Fortuna, or fortune, is the wild, unpredictable chaos of the world. It's the stuff you can't control: a sudden economic crash, a natural disaster, a rival's lucky break. He compares fortune to a raging river that can flood and destroy everything in its path. But virtù is where the leader's skill comes in. It's not virtue in the moral sense. It's a combination of skill, decisiveness, courage, and ambition. A leader with virtù doesn't just let fortune sweep them away. They build dams and dikes. They prepare. They adapt. They seize opportunities when they arise and mitigate damage when disaster strikes. A successful leader, in Machiavelli's view, is one who can master fortune through their own view. Another brilliant and often misunderstood idea is his advice on appearances. Machiavelli understood that perception is reality, especially in politics. He wrote that a prince should appear to be merciful, faithful, humane, religious, and upright. Not to say to ward appear. He wasn't saying the prince asterisk had asterisk to be all these things. In fact, he argued that always being good would lead to ruin. The key was to cultivate a public image of virtue while being privately prepared to act unscrupulously when the situation demanded it. It's about strategic communication and managing your reputation. Think about it in today's world of social media and 24-hour news cycles. This idea is more relevant than ever. Leaders and even brands carefully craft their public personas to win support and trust, regardless of what's happening behind the scenes. And what about his famous line? Is it better to be loved or feared? His answer is pragmatic. Ideally, you want both. But since that's difficult to achieve, fear is a much more reliable foundation for power. Why? Because love is fickle. People love you when you're giving them what they want, but that love can vanish quickly. Fear, however, is based on the dread of punishment, and that's a constant you can control. But he adds a crucial warning. A ruler must avoid being hated. You can be feared without being hated. You do this by not taking people's property or disrespecting their families. A feared leader is seen as a strong, effective protector. A hated leader is seen as a cruel oppressor, and that inspires rebellion. It's a fine line to walk, but it's a masterclass in psychological control. Beyond The Prince, Machiavelli wrote other important works, like the Discourses on Livy. Here, he shows a different side, championing the benefits of a republic over a monarchy. He argued that a state governed by its citizens, with good laws and institutions, is far more stable and glorious than one ruled by a single prince. This seems like a contradiction, right? The guy who wrote The Ultimate Guide for a Single Ruler also praised republics, but it's not a contradiction at all. The Prince was a specific guide for a specific situation. How to create a state from scratch in a chaotic environment. The Discourses was about how to maintain a state once it's already established and stable. This shows his incredible flexibility. He wasn't dogmatic. He was a pragmatist who believes the right strategy depends entirely on the context. So, how can we apply Machiavelli's strategies today? You don't have to be a prince or a president. His ideas apply to business, career, navigation, and even personal life. Think about Vercek and Fortuna. You can't control the job market, your company's restructuring, or a sudden change in your industry. That's Fortuna, but you can build your Verch by continuously learning new skills, building a strong professional network, and staying adaptable. That way, when opportunity knocks, you're ready. When a crisis hits, you have the resources to weather the storm. Consider his advice on appearances. In your career, it's not enough to just be good at your job. You need to be seen as competent, reliable, and a team player. This means communicating your successes, managing your professional relationships, and building a strong personal brand. It's not about being fake. It's about being strategic in how you present your best self to the world, and the idea of being feared versus loved. In a modern leadership context, fear isn't about terror. It's about respect for your authority and competence. A leader who is only loved might be seen as a pushover, unable to make tough decisions. A leader who earns respect, who is clear about expectations, and holds people accountable is often more effective in the long run. They are feared in the sense that their team knows there are standards to be met and consequences for poor performance. Machiavelli's legacy is a testament to the power of seeing the world for what it is. He was a product of his violent, unstable times, and his writings reflect that harsh reality. He wasn't a monster. He was a political realist who dared to write down the uncomfortable truths about how power really works. He taught us that to succeed, whether in politics, business, or life, you have to be a strategist. You have to understand human nature, anticipate challenges, manage perceptions, and know when to be bold and when to be cautious. His work isn't a manual for evil. It's a timeless guide to navigating the complex, often messy, game of human ambition. By understanding his true message, we can all become a little more strategic, a little more prepared, and a little more in control of our own destiny. What do you think? Is Machiavelli a misunderstood genius or a teacher of tyranny? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like and subscribe for more explorations into the minds that shaped our world. See you next time.